6-foot square hole, 6 foot deep, 2 metres. And in the bottom of this pit was a snake and a rat. And I watched it for 3 days, and I still don't know who got who. But I never did see the end of what happened to that rat or that snake. Whether somebody put it down there for fun, I don't know. But we were made to work up at Tanbaya. We had to do a lot of jobs up there, and the wood piles, they used to bury a fair few up there, used to build the wood, put the wood piles there, and they had this big 12-inch logs on the bottom, and they throw all these bamboo stuff on the top. There's more heavy wood. Then they'd light these, and they'd come out. If you died after 8 o'clock at night in the hospital, you weren't taken out at 8 o'clock in the morning. If you died during the day, you were taken out, thrown on this wood pile. Well, Charlie Bailey, or Chuck Bailey was one of our mates. Very well, nothing wrong with him at all, until we said good day to him, or good night to that night, was in hospital. Next morning we went to see him, he was dead. But Charlie, I still think this day that I walked when they passed, put Charlie on a wood heap, I walked past, he sat up, said good day. It just felt like he moved as I went past. And I still got that feeling that Charlie said good day to me, you know. But,
now what was the water supply like in Tanbaya?
The water supply, I think the water supply was a bit short. We were on a little river, like maybe a metre wide, 2 metres wide, about a foot deep. And that, when we got there, that was running quite well. But as the wet season went and the dry season came, it dried up a bit, so we weren't getting enough water. But about a mile up the river further, there was a pond and little whitebait fish in it, and I don't know how they got the water down. They may have put a pipeline down, but they may have carried the water down from that river. But I never had anything to do with the carrying water. But everybody had scabies up there, and we used to go up there if we got the time and sit in this little pond with all these whitebait, let them pick all the scabies around our stomachs, because that's where the lice used to bite you. Lice and the bugs used to bite you around the belt line.
Do you remember the names of any of the officers that were in that camp?
No, look, I didn't come in contact with any officers.
Well, when did you actually have contact with Bruce Hunt?
Bruce Hunt was on the run. Bruce Hunt never sat still for 2 minutes. No, well, he was on the run all the time.
What can you tell us about him?
Well, Bruce Hunt, he's the only doctor I really remember personally. Bruce Hunt, Colonel Cappy, I believe, was the CO or OC of the force, but nobody saw Colonel Cappy. So Bruce first took over running the camps, because he was in several camps, and of course the Japanese had want these workers in the morning, and we'd only, and he said, well, I've only got 500 fit men, you want 700, I haven't got them. So Bruce, the doctor, used to go in, Japanese used to go in the camp, or some other doctor may have got in there, or the interpreter, or the English interpreter was there, just can't think of his name at the moment. He was all there, always with Bruce Hunt. And
well, was that Major Wild?
Yeah, yeah, Mr. Wild, yeah. But he was the interpreter. Yeah. He was all with Bruce Hunt, and they go in a hut, they go through, they find another 200 fellas. Fellas get over dysentery, fellas get over malaria, what other problems they had. But they made up to 700 men. That's where the things were good. But when it came to this late October, those times, there was very few people to work, because we're all down to about 6 stone, no energy, and get a work party was very difficult. But I've seen Bruce Hunt up there. He'd be arguing with the Japanese and Mr. Wild. The Japanese just stand off and swipe him. You know, and Bruce would stand there, just take it. And they weren't happy with hitting Dr. Hunt. They used to hit Mr. Boyle too, because he was the interpreter.
Yeah.
They both got bashed.
Was Bruce Hunter, what sort of a physique did he have? Was he a powerful, strong man? Or
what was that?
What was Bruce Hunt's physique?
Bruce Hunt looked in fairly good nick.
Yeah.
Because he had his uniform on.
Yes.
So he wore his uniform.
Yes.
Whereas we wore G-strings.
Yes.
So he'd cover up his bones.
Yes.
He probably had plenty of bones underneath his, because he wore long trousers and, you know, he looked the part.
Now there was another interpreter.
He may have had shorts on, but yeah.
There was another interpreter up there, a Dutchman.
No, I never met the Dutchman. No, not any of my camps.
No. Actually, no, it wasn't. This bloke's name was Ullman.
Who?
Ullman. U-L-L-M-A-N.
Ullman. No, I don't sort of know him.
Yeah. What about some of the? Can I just mention some of the names of other people? Captain Fred Stahl of the SIGs. Do you remember
Fred
him?
Stahl.
Mm.
I've heard his name up there, but I never saw much of him.
No. What about the?
I never saw much of officers at all.
No. All right. Going down to the sergeants. Gordon Nicol, one of the medical orderlies. Burton Shaw.
Well, see, it's very difficult. All this had come through, and they'd check you.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't think to ask them their name.
No.
See?
Oh no, I know.
Because they were busy.
I do understand.
See, when you got fed,
you
got fed at 6 o'clock in the morning, which was dark.
Yeah.
And you got a watering pap, and you went out to work. You either took a Dixie of rice with 40 rations in it for 40 people. You had that for lunch. So you'd have that at 1 o'clock. To come home, to get your evening meal, you might get into 1 o'clock in the morning. And the cooks would be there with a meal for you. And the doctors would be there to check you. See? So we always knew that somebody was there to check us.
Do you have any idea how many doctors were in the Tanbaya camp? Just as a rough figure?
Well, no, I would not have a clue actually how many doctors. But I know I got well looked after by different ones.
Do you remember an Indian doctor by the name of Patrick Wolf?
No, I never saw Dr. Wolf.
Yeah.
I heard about him.
You knew of him?
Never met him.
Yeah.
No, I never saw Dr. Wolf. But
what about an officer by the name of Norm Dean, Lieutenant Norm Dean?
No, I don't know Norman Dean.
What about George Gwynn? Does that name ring a bell? George Gwynn?
Gwynn?
Gwynn. G-W-Y-N-N-E.
No, I don't know George Gwynn.
Yeah. Those officers, the reason why I asked them, they were actually...
I do Neville's Pride.
Did you? Yeah. Well, they were what they call ward masters.
Yeah.
So they were working in the wards. Like there was a disciplinary ward, and there was the amputations.
Yeah.
And as you quite rightly say, there was only 10% survival.
Yeah.
Frank Carl did 40 amputations and only 4 survived.
See, I was in the hospital at Tanbaya, and I had this, I probably had malaria, something like that, or don't know exactly what I had.
Yeah.
But I had this English fellow alongside of me.
Yeah.
He had ulcers in his head, with maggots in it. He had ulcers all over his back. He had ulcers on his buttock. He had ulcers everywhere. And they all had maggots in there. And somebody said, we can't do anything for this guy.